Hey there, knowledge seekers. Ever pulled an all-nighter and felt like your brain was just, well, fuzzier than usual the next day? Today, we're diving into this really fascinating review. It looks at decades of research, unpacking exactly how sleep, or maybe not sleeping, impacts our ability to learn and remember things. So I guess the big question is, does skimping on sleep truly sabotage our memory? Let's see what this deep dive into the science tells us.
Right then. So this first part of our exploration, it looked at what happens when we're deprived of sleep after we've actually learned something new. The researchers did what's called a meta-analysis. It's a very powerful technique, really. They combined the findings from lots of different studies spanning decades, and their focus was specifically on total sleep deprivation. So we're talking at least one full night without any sleep at all.
Okay, a proper all-nighter then.
Precisely. Now, what's fascinating here is a key idea they discuss called the active systems consolidation theory.
Okay, sounds technical.
It does a bit, but let's break it down. When we learn something, those new memories, they're initially quite, well, fragile. They're primarily encoded in a part of the brain called the hippocampus. You can sort of think of it as the brain's inbox, maybe.
Gotcha. Initial holding area.
Exactly. Now, sleep, and particularly that deep, slow wave sleep,
Yeah.
the kind with specific brainwave patterns that plays this really crucial role. During this deep sleep, the brain actually seems to reactivate these new memories. It's almost like it's replaying the important bits of the day's learning.
Oh, wow. Like hitting save repeatedly.
In a way, yes. This reactivation strengthens the memories and, crucially, helps integrate them into the neocortex. That's the brain's sort of main hard drive, long-term storage. And that's where connections with things you already know are formed. This process mainly supports what we call declarative memory.
Which is,
Ah, yes, that's your explicit memory. Things like facts you learn, events that happen, remembering what you had for breakfast or, a historical date.
okay, makes sense.
But it's not just about facts. Sleep is also vital for consolidating procedural memory.
Procedural.
Yeah.
Like riding a bike or typing.
Precisely. Remembering how to do things, learning a new piece on the piano, improving a tennis serve. Motor skills, essentially. And interestingly, the benefits of sleep seem particularly strong for these skills when the learning was intentional. You were consciously trying to get better.
Mm-hmm.
And here's something else quite interesting. Even for tasks that don't seem to rely heavily on the hippocampus when you first learn them, sleep still seems to boost their consolidation later on.
Really?
Yes, it suggests the hippocampus might have perhaps a subtler later role in locking in those skills too. It's quite complex.
Wow, okay. So the bottom line then, if you learn stuff and then pull that all-nighter,
Well, the meta-analysis showed a small to medium detrimental effect on memory overall.
meaning worse memory.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
Averaging across all those studies, people who skipped sleep after learning something just didn't remember it as well as the people who got a proper night's rest.
Okay, so no huge shocker there, right? Like, we probably all suspected cramming followed by zero sleep isn't exactly a winning strategy. But here's where it gets really interesting for me. Some of these studies, they let people catch up on sleep after that night of deprivation.
Ah, yes, the recovery sleep aspect.
Yeah. So, like, imagine your brain tried to save the file, but the power went out. If the power comes back on later, the recovery sleep, can it still finish the save properly? Or is the file kind of corrupted?
That's a good analogy, actually.
So what happened? Did catching up fix it?
Well, the analysis found that even with that recovery sleep, the memory deficit was still there. It hadn't vanished completely,
Oh, okay.
but it was smaller. The gap between the sleep-deprived group and the normal sleep group narrowed after recovery sleep.
So it helps but doesn't fully erase the damage. It's like your brain's a bit grumpy, like, okay, fine, I'll try to remember this now that you finally let me rest, but don't expect miracles.
You could certainly phrase it that way. The initial disruption seems to leave a mark.
And get this, they also looked at different types of memory tasks. You mentioned declarative, like facts, and procedural, like skills.
That's right.
So while both took a hit from missing that first night of sleep, the negative effect was actually larger for the procedural tasks.
Indeed. That was a notable finding.
Isn't that wild? It's almost like your fingers get more forgetful after an all-nighter than your brain's little fact filing cabinet does. Maybe that's why I drop things more when I'm tired. My motor skills memory is just a show.
Yeah, it's certainly suggestive, isn't it? Procedural consolidation seems particularly vulnerable.
Yeah. And okay, one more thing they looked at, recall versus recognition. So like recall is pulling an answer out of thin air.
Like an essay question, perhaps.
Exactly. And recognition is more like multiple choice, where you just have to spot the right answer.
Correct.
Did sleep loss affect one more than the other?
Interestingly, no. The study found no significant difference there. Sleep deprivation seemed to impair both about equally.
Huh. Okay. And what about like emotional memories versus just plain neutral facts? Did that matter?
Again, surprisingly perhaps, the analysis didn't find a significant difference based on emotional content either. The negative impact of sleep loss was pretty consistent across the board in that regard.
Okay, wow. Lots to unpack there.
Indeed. And I think what's particularly striking, as you highlighted, is that even when people got that recovery sleep,
Yeah.
the initial disruption, that first night without sleep, still had a measurable negative effect. It wasn't completely undone.
Right.
And that really underscores just how important that first night of sleep after learning something new seems to be. It strongly suggests that those initial consolidation processes, the brain's first steps to make a memory stick, are perhaps uniquely critical. They maybe
Yeah.
can't be fully compensated for just by sleeping more later.
Exactly. You really hit the nail on the head there. It's like trying to bake a cake, maybe. If you
Yeah.
forget the eggs right at the beginning, sure, you can try and mix them in later, but it's just not going to be the same cake, is it?
A very apt analogy. The foundation wasn't properly set.
Yeah. So this research really drives home that getting good sleep isn't just passive downtime. It's not just about feeling less grumpy or more alert.
Right.
It's an active process. Your brain is working while you sleep, locking in that new information, solidifying those new skills. It's essential for learning.
Absolutely. It's a fundamental part of the learning mechanism itself. So perhaps we should summarize the key takeaways from this deep dive into the research.
Good idea. Lay it on us.
Right. So firstly, total sleep deprivation after you've learned something new. It generally has a detrimental impact on your memory of that information or skill.
Check. Bad news for all-nighters.
Secondly, even if you manage to get some recovery sleep later on, those negative effects from the initial deprivation are still present, although they might be somewhat lessened. The damage isn't fully repaired, so to speak.
Got it. The first night matters most.
Thirdly, it seems procedural memories, our memories for skills and how to perform actions, might be even more susceptible to the negative effects of sleep deprivation than our declarative memories for facts and events.
Uh-huh. The clumsy effect.
You could call it that. And finally, taken together, this comprehensive analysis really highlights the absolutely critical role sleep plays in consolidating our memories, effectively cementing new learning in the brain.
Perfect summary. Clear, concise, and maybe a little scary for anyone planning to skip sleep tonight. All right, you brilliant listeners, armed with all this knowledge, here's a little something for you to think about. Considering just how vital that first night of sleep seems to be after learning something new, what's maybe one small adjustment you could make to your routine? Specifically after you've learned something important to give your amazing brain the best shot at getting that memory-boosting rest it clearly needs. Just a thought to chew on. Maybe tonight's the perfect night to prioritize those dizzies.